Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Well, most people out there trying to squeeze some pleasure out of Halloween, we're recognizing that we came wearing our masks and our costumes. This is not who we are. And Srila Prabhupada was the one who told us that we are the living entity inside this body. Today, we all know it's the anniversary of his entering into the Nitya Leela of Lord Krishna, going back home, back to Vrindavan Dham, or, if the Lord chose and he desired, going on to preach elsewhere in another planet, another universe. But I'm going to tell one little pastime to hopefully set a little bit of a mood. In Shyamasundara's book, Chasing the Rhino, he told how Srila Prabhupada and he and the servants came back from India after the white elephants had conquered so many nice pandals and preaching programs, and India was swept away by Srila Prabhupada's disciples and the Harinam Sankirtan and lectures they gave. And when he came back to L.A., Shyamasundar, as his servant, was trying to protect Prabhupada and keep him free to engage in his service of talking to leaders or translating his books, etc., etc. And he would try to keep people out of the door. But if Srila Prabhupada heard anybody walking up to the door and saying something like, "I'm from Chicago and we're leaving tomorrow, and I was hoping I could see my spiritual master," inevitably Srila Prabhupada would hear and say, "Oh, someone's there? Please come in." And Shyamasundar realized it was not what he should be doing. He gave up his Nazi program of trying to keep people out of the door and realized Srila Prabhupada wanted to see anyone and everyone who wanted to come and see him. He wanted to share Krishna consciousness with everyone. Tonight, everyone that wants to can have a chance, according to times permitting, to say some words of gratitude, expressions of love, aspirations, whatever may be in your heart. I'm going to try and pass the microphone. I have the unenviable service of, quote-unquote, emceeing this program. Basically, that means I'm going to be committing offenses. Either I'm going to be saying, ding, 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 time's up, or I won't get to you because more and more people are going to be walking in the door. Right now, with an hour and a half, we could do 16 people at 5 minutes. And we have more than 16 people right now. How many people, and don't be shy, how many people would like to say something in glorification of Srila Prabhupada? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ladies, please don't be shy if you have anything. Okay, well at this point we'll say we'll give a full 5 minutes. And we'll let the glorification begin. I beg for your forgiveness if I do say, could you please stop? I have a little bell. I'll kind of keep eye on the watch. It's not what I want to do. I want to absorb myself in hearing your glorifications. I hope to have my heart, stone-like heart, softened by the inspiration that will be coming from your heart out of your mouth in the form of glorification and gratitude. So, I think Madhus or Kanch, you're the seniors here. I'm going to come and bring you a microphone. I think I'll be running to you. We usually have had chairs with microphone and people take so long coming up to the chair and then fixing the mic. So just hold the microphone directly into your mouth so you can hear. And if you'd be so kind, everybody that's here now, if you'll remember, turn off your phones or put them in airplane mode, silence them, what have you. And also, before you begin, even though you may think every single person here knows who you are, would you be kind enough to say who you are? My name is
Kanchan Baladasi. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Padale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Samniti Namini
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurani Bhajani Nivishesha.
I'm going to interrupt you. Could we all say that same pranam mantra together? Because Jayapataka Swami set the example on Navadvip Parikrama when you have very limited time. And of course, before you say any words of glorification to the spiritual master, you always say your pranam mantras to him. Only by his grace can we have any Krishna conscious understanding or ability to speak that understanding. So could we all say together, as Kanchambala Mata just did, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarne. Thank you.
Dearest Srila Prabhupada, please accept my most humble obeisances at the dust of your transcendental lotus feet. It can never be overemphasized of your causeless mercy, genuine humility, and phenomenal perseverance. Throughout Srila Prabhupada's life, he never forgot Krishna and his long-ranged goal to pursue the request of his beloved spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, to spread Krishna consciousness to the Western world. When Srila Prabhupada took sannyas, he was asked, "Are you going to America?" And Srila Prabhupada replied, "No, Srimad Bhagavatam is going to America. I'm going with it," unquote. Besides the insurmountable tests before venturing to the U.S., the then horrendous journey over the ocean, it is all the more revealing, astounding that all what Srila Prabhupada encountered in this foreign country, as he had never left India before in the first place. Recently, I read an article in the Village Voice, a very happening paper in the 1960s. It was written on June 1966, and it's by this journalist named Howard Smith. He interviewed Srila Prabhupada for the Village Voice newspaper in 1966. Mr. Smith was famous for interviewing 60s counterculture icons such as John Lennon, George Harrison, Mick Jagger, Jerry Garcia, Jim Morrison, Allen Ginsberg, Abby Hoffman, etc. By interviewing Srila Prabhupada before the Hare Krishna movement took hold in the West, Howard Smith unwittingly landed the biggest interview of his career. This is Howard Smith. "So I went down there and went upstairs into this very funky artist's loft. There were carpets all over the place, old and worn out, and a lot of people sitting around in various kinds of hippie garb, plus what I think they must have thought was Indian garb. Most of them were sitting alone around the room, facing the wall, like they had nothing to do with each other. They were sitting cross-legged, and each one seemed to be doing something different. Nobody paid any attention to me when I walked in. I saw shoes lined up, and I thought, maybe I'm supposed to take off my shoes, but nobody said anything to me. So I walked around the edge of the carpet looking for somebody to pay attention to me. I wondered what was going on, and I didn't want to interrupt anybody because they all seemed deep into whatever kind of prayers they were doing. In the back of the loft, I noticed a little curtain, an Indian Madras type of curtain, and so I decided to peer into that area. I looked in, and there was Swami Bhaktivedanta sitting there, cross-legged, in saffron garments, with the markings on his forehead and nose and his hand in his bead bag. Even though he looked like the real thing, he seemed more approachable, and I said hello, and he looked up. I said, "Swami Bhaktivedanta?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "I am Howard Smith." I was expecting to sit down, so I said, "Excuse me, I have to take off my shoes." And he said, "Why do you want to take off your shoes?" I said, "I don't know. I saw all the shoes out there." And he said, "I didn't ask you to take your shoes off." I said, "What are all those people out What are all those people out there doing?" And Srila Prabhupada said, I don't know. And they don't know what they're doing. I am trying to teach them, and they seem to be misunderstanding me. They are very confused people, unquote. Then we sat and talked, and I liked him a lot right away. I mean, I had met a lot of other Swamis, and I didn't like them too much. I don't think it's fair to lump them all together and say those Swamis in India. He was very, very basic, and that's what I seemed to like about him. He not only made me feel at ease, but he seemed very open and honest, like he asked my advice on things. He was very new in the country. I thought his ideas stood a good chance of taking hold, because he seemed so practical. His head didn't seem to be in the clouds. He wasn't talking mysticism every third word. I guess that is where his soul was at, but that isn't where his normal conversational consciousness was at. Then he told me that several people had told him that the voice would be a very good place to be written up, and that basically it would reach the kind of people who already perhaps had a leading or interest in what he was preaching. I said I thought he was correct. He asked me if I had read any books or knew anything about Indian culture. I said no, I didn't really. We talked a little, and he explained to me that he had these books in English that he had already translated in India. He handed those to me and said, if you want more background, you can read these. It was obvious to me that I was not talking to some fellow who had just decided that he had seen God and was going to tell people about it. He seemed to be an educated man, much more so than myself. I liked his humbleness. I just plain liked the guy. He explained everything I wanted to know, the significance of what he was wearing, the mark on his forehead, the bead bag. I liked all his explanations. Everything was very practical. Then he talked about temples all over the world, and he said, quote, well, we have a long way to go, but I am very patient, unquote. It was really just moving and special to read, capturing a glimpse of Srila Prabhupada's magnificent essence. It is always so joyful and deeply gratifying to hear both devotees and others from all different walks of life knowingly or unknowingly appreciate, admire, and acknowledge Srila Prabhupada's genuine authenticity. There is so much deception and danger in this world. In Srila Prabhupada's books, the words ring out so true, describing the nature of this existence. We see this day to day. It's surely not getting any better. But you, dear most spiritual master Srila Prabhupada, how inexplicably fortunate are we to have contact of your most divine association, being so rest assured, reassured, knowing that you, Srila Prabhupada, is Jagat Guru, is the greatest solace of all. How I am expiring, begging to always remain your loving servant, Kanchan Bhava Dasi.
Thank you, Kanchan. Did you want to add anything to this? If you do, you have 3 minutes max. It's for the pair of
That's
you.
right. I didn't write anything, so I'll just
That's
have
why
to
she
speak.
got the extra
Yeah.
bonus time, because her thoughts were organized and she really shared a lot in that time.
Just picking up from one thing that she said, that Prabhupada was patient about the temples all over the world. I remember when I first came, and there was only one temple in New York City, and then Prabhupada had just left. I missed him. He had just left for San Francisco to open up that temple. But I remember seeing a business card that he had printed. It said, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, temples throughout the world. And I thought, where are these temples throughout the world? I just thought, well, maybe there's some in India, but there were no temples. So Prabhupada was so confident. I think one thing that was, of course I was there during the time that Prabhupada had his stroke, and that was a very difficult time for us. And then he went to he left New York, went to other places to recuperate, and then he finally realized he wanted to go back to India and get the kind of treatment he was used to, Ayurvedic type treatment. So on his way back from San Francisco, he stopped in New York, and I remember him coming in the temple, and he was walking very slowly. I mean, like it was, like he was very, very weak, maybe close to death. It was just, he just was just walking very slowly. But he walked over to the picture of his Guru Maharaj that was up we had the Panchatattva, the disciplic succession on the wall, Bhaktisiddhanta Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj. So he walked up to his picture of his spiritual master, and he slowly got down on his knees and then full dandavats. While he was in that condition, I mean, you had to be there to see how weak he was, and yet, I mean, when I'm weak and tired, I don't even want to bow down. I just make my pranam standing up. What to speak of the condition that he was in? He went full dandavats. It really affected me, seeing that. I know personally I don't like to think so much about his disappearance, but I like to think about how extraordinary he was. It was just too amazing to believe that somebody could be so perfect, speak so much truth all the time, and even what I experienced when we went on some engagements with him, and of course I was only like 18 years old, 19. But we went to some places with some older people there, and they were asked. They asked some not challenging, but questions that I couldn't answer. But every question that anybody ever asked, I never heard Prabhupada defeated, ever. The only time I heard somebody who just would not give up. I mean, he convinced everybody that he spoke to, or made them be quiet at least. One person I remember hearing on a tape, I wasn't there, but the person just would not give up. Prabhupada was defeating him, but he still wouldn't give up. That was the only thing that came close. So it really was just so amazing to be in his presence. Everybody would just pretty much fight to get close to him. So, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
My name is Padmana. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to your divine grace. Only a few months ago was your divine appearance day, after Janmashtami. It is always a wonderful day to celebrate 2 appearance days, one after another. Today, your disappearance day is a more sober occasion. Of course, appearance and disappearance are the same thing, as you have told us before. But on a personal level, it is very hard to feel the same. The fact that you had to come here to try to deliver such fools as myself and undergo so much tribulation yourself makes me ashamed. It is my fault that you had to suffer. The whole world is suffering for lack of knowledge of Krishna, and you are so kindly giving that knowledge to us. From the materialistic man's view, it is a fly in the ointment to hear about Krishna consciousness, because for a materialist, is trying to imitate the enjoyment of God and become God himself. Perhaps not in a conscious way, but the idea of material enjoyment is by its nature against the will of God. The 4 sinful activities which you have told us to avoid, and all quite ingrained in our society, and any restriction from them is viewed as an anathema. It is a difficult task, but somehow you were able to give us a way to wean us off these sinful habits by spoon-feeding us and allowing us to taste the sweet taste of service to Krishna, chant his holy names, and, of course, Krishna's prasadam. For all the gifts you have given me, Srila Prabhupada, I cannot ever repay you. Only an eternity of service could even be a beginning. The whole world owes you the biggest debt for what you did for us. On this day, since your final days were filmed, often I come across these videos. I prefer not to watch them because I don't want to see you in such a difficult position and in unbearable pain. Yet you continued to act as though there was no pain, and indeed continued translating Srimad Bhagavatam to your last day. Maybe it just reminds me that I'm at fault for you being in that state. It's also sobering to observe what has happened to your movement since your disappearance. So many splinter groups have formed, each declaring themselves the heirs to your legacy. For myself, I cannot and will not leave ISKCON because you told us not to. Even if they are wrong, you stated, we still have to follow the authority. I see many mistakes, needless changes, deviations, etc., which I shall not mention here. I wish you were still manifest to sort things out. But the real truth is that you have never left. Your instructions are still here for anyone to follow, regardless of what problems the organization may have. There's no need for anyone to fill your shoes, because in fact, you're still in them. I see so many sincere souls who have dedicated their lives to your service, regardless of their affiliation or who they are initiated by. That is proof that this movement will go on. You are the de facto singular guru for the whole world, and all others are simply there to point their followers to you. There is no one I have seen with the qualifications to be the guru as you are. That is not to minimize the sincere preachers of our movement, but the pure devotee is obvious by his habits, word, and example that no one can imitate unless they are on the same platform. Obviously, I'm not qualified to be the final judge because of my own envy and lack of purity, but anyone who seriously considers your achievements and activities cannot but know you are beyond any conditioned soul with 4 defects. No ordinary man would even consider leaving your native India for a dangerous journey to America to start a worldwide movement using looseless hippies and drug-infested homeless types. If I had not seen everything myself unfolding over the years, I would not have believed the story. I believe it is nothing less than a divine pastime of the Lord that you came and were able to establish this movement. And of course, it is the movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, unfolding at every moment. No one can stop the Krishna consciousness movement because it is directly a manifestation of himself. With a heavy heart, I bow to your lotus feet on this auspicious but sober day. May I eternally be your loving servant.
Hare Krishna. My name is Dravida Das, the lowliest servant of Srila Prabhupada. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my prostrated obeisances in the dust of your lotus feet. All glories to your divine grace on this most auspicious anniversary of your disappearance from this world. Why is your disappearance anniversary auspicious? Because like your appearance day, it is a chance for us to take stock of our relationship with you, to delve deeply into our hearts and assess how we are following your instructions, staying true to our vows, clinging to your lotus feet as we traverse this dangerous ocean of Maya, and deepening our love for you. Recently, I've reread Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, the biography of you written by your dear disciple Satsvarup Das Goswami. One of the aspects of your life that has struck me and stayed with me every day is how you risked your life repeatedly and came close to departing just to give us the treasure of Krishna consciousness. In other words, you risked your life time and again to give us our eternal life in Krishna consciousness. We read of your first dangerous encounter with death, experienced in your trip to America on the Jaladuta in August of 1965. This is from Lilamrita. By the 23rd, the ship had put out to the Red Sea, where Srila Prabhupada encountered great difficulty. He noted in his diary, rain, seasickness, dizziness, headache, no appetite, vomiting. The symptoms persisted, but it was more than seasickness. The pains in his chest made him think he would die at any moment. In 2 days, he suffered 2 heart attacks. He tolerated the difficulty, meditating on the purpose of his mission. But after 2 days of such violent attacks, he thought that if another were to come, he would certainly not survive. On the night of the 2nd day, Prabhupada had a dream. Lord Krishna in his many forms was rowing a boat, and he told Prabhupada that he should not fear, but should come along. Prabhupada felt assured of Lord Krishna's protection, and the violent attacks did not recur.
Srila Prabhupada, Krishna took over the ship and calmed the normally rough Atlantic Ocean to smooth your journey to the U.S. and assure you of safety. After landing in New York in September of 1965, you made your way to New York City from Butler, Pennsylvania, your first destination in the U.S. And after some time uptown at Dr. Mishra's ashram on Riverside Drive, you relocated downtown to a loft on the Bowery, an area filled with what today would be called the homeless, and then were known as derelicts. Homeless men, often drunk, sometimes passed out in front of your door leading to the upstairs loft where you held kirtans and lectures. Your roommate was David Allen, who seemed a promising student at first, but one day on an LSD trip went crazy and made you fear for your life. You exited the loft post-haste and by Lord Krishna's grace found shelter at another student's apartment nearby. Soon thereafter, with the help of Michael Grant, soon Mukunda Das, and other sincere students, you relocated to the famous 26 Second Avenue storefront, your first temple in America. There you nurtured the delicate creepers of devotion of a small band of initial followers, and when you had a few initiates, you left New York and made your way to San Francisco in January 1967. This was truly the most fertile ground for you to plant the seeds of Krishna consciousness, and after a few months there, you had your first temple with deities, an enthusiastic and sincere group of initiates, and an expanding society. You returned to New York, but at the end of May experienced a life-threatening stroke that you survived by your own account because of the fervent 24-hour chanting of the holy name by all your followers in San Francisco and New York. After some days in the hospital, you escaped with the help of Gargamuni and Brahmananda, and it really was an escape, you should read it. Gargamuni and Brahmananda, and began a period of recuperation and convalescence. After a few months, you returned to India with your leading student as an aide, and soon found your health returning in the warm embrace of your beloved Vrindavan. You faced several more near-death encounters, Srila Prabhupada, most notably a threat from the Naxalite terrorists to fly or die before a Calcutta pandal. A threat you neutralized by welcoming and seating the Naxalite contingent when they appeared at the pandal, chanting the Brahma Samhita and offering them prasadam. And another encounter was a head-on car crash in Mauritius, which you seemed to anticipate a few seconds before it occurred so you could brace yourself, and which you escaped with minor injuries. My point is that you were ready to face all these dangers for the sake of preaching Krishna consciousness, because of your deep compassion and love for us, ignorant, suffering souls who had no hope, fools and souls, who had no hope for deliverance, but the transcendental knowledge and the chanting of the holy name you were giving out to whoever would take them. By taking all these risks for us, you have put us eternally in your debt, Srila Prabhupada. I will end with a paraphrase of the prayer of Sri Prahlad Maharaj that you included in your prayer unto the lotus feet of Krishna, which you wrote aboard the Jaladuta. Evam janam na patitam babavahi kupe, kama vikama manoyak papatan pasangat, kritpat nasat Prabhupada bhagavan grihita, soham katam na visurje tavabritya sevam. My dear Lord, because of my association with material desires, one after another, I was gradually falling into a blind well full of snakes, following the general populace. But your servant, Srila Prabhupada, kindly accepted me as his disciple and instructed me how to achieve the transcendental position. Therefore, my first duty is to serve him. How could I ever leave his service? Your most fallen servant, Prabhupada Das.
Yes. Hare Krishna. My name is Dharma Setu Das. And there's one book here. It was published in 1979 called He Lives Forever by Satsuru Maharaj. And it's a collection of different lectures he gave trying to help devotees in ISKCON understand the significance of Srila Prabhupada's disappearance, what it meant collectively as a movement and also individually for each one of the followers of Srila Prabhupada, his disciples and followers, because it was something no one had experienced. And every year at this time I read this book, and I find it to be just as important as it was in 1979 when it first came out. And this is a series of lectures where he draws parallels between different personalities, mostly in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and they're also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and also drawing from Srila Prabhupada's purports, because in those verses and in those purports, Srila Prabhupada has explained in detail everything we need to know when the spiritual master leaves, goes back home, back to Godhead. And there's different lessons which are brought out in these different classes. And one I like to read a few paragraphs from, I was meditating on this today, is that the concluding words in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada is writing about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and always feeling the presence of his spiritual master. And, the point being that as we go on in our spiritual life, we should be feeling the presence of our spiritual master more and more and more and more. Even Srila Prabhupada has passed away, left, so many decades ago, we should be more Prabhupada conscious than we were then. Madhus mentioned being 18 or 19. Anyways, I'll read and I'll come back to this. So there's a few paragraphs here. It says, in his concluding words of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada writes, I still consider his divine grace to be always present with me by his Vani, his words. There are two ways of association, by Vani and by Vapu. Vani means words and Vapu means physical presence. Physical presence is sometimes appreciable and sometimes not, but Vani continues to exist eternally. Therefore, we must take advantage of the Vani, not the physical presence. Bhagavad Gita, for example, is the Vani of Lord Krishna. Although Krishna was personally present 5,000 years ago, it is no longer physically present. From the materialistic point of view, Bhagavad Gita continues. Then Prabhupada tells the whole wonderful story of how he met his spiritual master and how he gradually formed his life in service to his spiritual master. He started Back to Godhead magazine, began writing Srimad Bhagavatam, and finally came to America. At the end of this passage, Srila Prabhupada writes, I think that His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, is always seeing my activities and guiding me within my heart by His words. This is not merely a poetic metaphor. The Supersoul is not alone, but is present with all His associates. Generally, the spiritual master is an associate of the Lord, especially in the heart of His disciples. So the Lord is there, and He is there with His devotees and associates. Quote, it is to be admitted that whatever translation work I have done through the inspiration of my spiritual master, because personally I am most insignificant and incompetent to do this materially impossible work. I do not think myself a very learned scholar, but I have full faith in the service of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. If there is any credit to my activities of translating, it is due to His Divine Grace. Certainly, if His Divine Grace was physically present at this time, it would have been a great occasion for jubilation. But even though He is not physically present, I am confident that He is pleased by this translation work. So Prabhupada is telling us that his Guru is with him and his Guru is pleased. It was many years after his Guru had passed away that the Chaitanya Charitamrita was finished, yet he says that he knows that his spiritual master is very pleased and that he is still present. We may not understand all these things, but if we try to follow the instructions of our spiritual master, we will gradually advance in our realization. So this is an important part of the Krishna consciousness philosophy, which is now being impressed upon us, how to please the spiritual master more and more. Service and separation is very real. So that is the point I wanted to bring up, that by serving Srila Prabhupada day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, decade after decade, lifetime after lifetime, we will feel Prabhupada's presence more and more and more and more. So what I was going to say was I was 18 years old on the front porch here when I heard that Prabhupada had left. I think it was either Mahatma or Gunagraj Maharaj told me. So that was 40-something years ago, 42 years ago, like that. So, but I feel much more Prabhupada conscious than I did when I was 18 years old. So that's just one of the lessons in this book here. By following Prabhupada's instructions, by serving him, pushing on his movement, we'll always feel his presence. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, like this.
I'm Chatura Devi Dasi. Jai. When I was coming back to the ashram and someone upstairs was telling me about Srila Prabhupada leaving, and I remember I took shelter of my ashram very quickly. And through the tears, I realized that Prabhupada was still with me. And I was praying to him and Lord Nrsimhadev for strength and clarity. And it hasn't changed. He's still with me. He's with us. I want to thank our Param Guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, wonderful Maharaj, for asking Prabhupada to come and Prabhupada for coming. And my service now is to be quick so other people can talk about Prabhupada. Haribol.
Srila Prabhupada said the grandfather is more merciful than the father. So I think all the Prabhupada disciples have spoken. Could the second generation devotees who want to speak please raise your hand? Sampata? Yeah. I only see two hands. Shamala?
My name is Sampata Dasi. I didn't write anything, but I just wanted to relate a story that I heard today, and this is in relation to this way. Okay. What Dharmaseta was just saying about Vani and Vapu, I was listening to, in Mayapur, the devotees were speaking on Prabhupada's disappearance day, and there was a Prabhupada disciple, I forget his name, but he was speaking and telling the younger devotees that a lot of the Prabhupada disciples are now leaving. Some of them have left the movement, or a lot of them are leaving the body. So he was saying that you have to spread the movement, keep the movement going. And he was saying that, well, I'm a Prabhupada disciple, and people ask me how much association did I have with Srila Prabhupada. And he said, this is my association story. He said he was a brahmachari. This was in the early 70s. He was a brahmachari. I don't remember what temple he was in, but he said it was very austere, and everyone would, throw their clothes in one basket, the dhotis and the kurtas and the socks and all that, you'd have to get there, one person would do the laundry, and then you'd have to get there real early if you wanted to get your matching socks and your dhoti and your kurta. And so then he said he went to the Los Angeles temple, and he thought, wow, this is really opulent. He said, I bet all the brahmacharis, I bet they each have their own dhoti, they each have their own kurta, I bet they have their own shoes, and and then he saw all these doors in the ashram, and he thought, wow, I bet everybody's got their own bathroom. And so he opened up one of the doors, and it was a bathroom, and then he opened up another door, and Prabhupada was there, chanting. And Prabhupada looked at him and said, yes. And he freaked out. And he said, Hare Krishna, and closed the door. So he said, that was my association with Prabhupada. And he said, that was probably the stupidest thing I've ever done, is close the door. But, that was my association. So he was making the point that, that Vani is more important than Vapu. Prabhupada's still here and take advantage, take association through his books. So.
Hare Krishna. My name is Madan. Being impressed by your philosophy and your books, I became a life member of International Society for Krishna Consciousness 30 years ago. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. What I wish to express my deep sense of gratitude for the favor you have done in coming to this part of the world and changing the lives of so many people. I cannot believe it. You are the one who told us that we are not this body, but we are spirit soul. It is because of you that we have got such gifted saints like Dhruvidadas, like Rajendra Nandana Das, like Dharam Setu Maharaj, like Pavmana Prabhu, like Balram Prabhu, like Dayanadhi Maharaj, like Swami Badrinarayan. All these gifted individuals we got because of you, and we are extremely grateful to you for all that. So we will sing a Hare Krishna mantra and then we'll say Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We express our deep sense of gratitude to you and we say Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you.
Put me right on the hot seat. Hare Krishna. My name is Vaikunthadev Das. Most of you know me as Rascal. This is a difficult day for me. I do want to read something I wrote this morning. And my prayer is that you won't think me too impertinent. And I named this, although the Guru's sun has set, it is still rising in our hearts. Today is the divine disappearance day of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Many people I love and respect say that they reject the idea of a guru in their life. They have lots of reasons, many of which I understand. And I wonder if they would say the same thing if the guru in question had actually saved their life and had risked his own life in order to do so. In 1973, I was a lost soul, almost out of high school, estranged from my family, with no prospects and no money, depressed at the lack of sincere love and support of any kind in my life. I was searching for answers, and none were coming. I had read all the cool books people were raving about and found not one sentence that satisfied my mind or gave my heart hope. And then, by one stroke of incalculably good fortune, I came across a person who introduced me to a book, Bhagavad Gita as It Is, by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. I felt as though I had been a sponge that had been left in the desert for 10,000 years and then been suddenly dropped into a vat of sweet nectar. I absorbed the pages with every fiber of my being. My mind's endless questions were answered, and my heart's eternal longings were quenched. Who was this man? It would be another 2.5 years before I would find out. Joining his society on faith alone, I struggled with my reckless mind and senses until the day I finally met him. The moment he looked into my eyes, I burst into tears as I felt a depth of love and compassion coming from him that penetrated all the layers of my false ego and saturated my very soul. He knew who I was, beyond all the misconception of my confused mind, insatiable senses, and bewildered ego. And I knew I had finally, perhaps after millions of lifetimes, met my eternal spiritual father. And he would take me all the way home. And I am by no means unique. Thousands of others have shared similar experiences. It is said that by God's grace, one gets Guru, and by Guru's grace, one gets God. He left us on this day 42 years ago.
My stepfather died earlier that same year, and I think of him from time to time. Not a day, or perhaps even an hour, goes by when I don't remember Srila Prabhupada. His message that we are all eternal sparks of an eternal flame of God's love, and that God personally lives within each of us eternally and loves us unconditionally, was the news my soul had been hungering for lifetime after lifetime. And he demonstrated that as not just an abstract concept, but as a tangible truth. How does one repay a debt to someone who has saved one's life? He left us that answer too. He has my love and gratitude eternally. One day I pray I may begin to offer him the service that is that true manifestation. Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada ki. Yes. It'll be 30 seconds.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada, I forgot to mention that you like kachoris very much. And my wife and my brother-in-law, Subhash Baveja, both made plenty kachoris for you to be offered at the dust of your lotus feet. Thank you for your kindness.
Kachori Mukha.
Hare Krishna. I didn't prepare anything to say, but I feel really inspired to say something. Ivania, Haribo. Just want to honor our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, which I call Grandpa Prabhupada. I have so much gratitude to him to have brought Krishna consciousness to the Western world. My daughter Karunamai is a devotee, and thanks to her, I came in contact with the devotees. My life at the moment was terrible. I was lost, totally. I didn't know the meaning of life, literally. And right now, I wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for the mercy of the devotees in Srila Prabhupada. I have found peace reading the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, coming to the classes, with the devotees. And I'm so thankful. Every day I read quotes from Srila Prabhupada that I have to like a calendar, and I look forward every morning to turning the calendar, the pages, and reading his Vani, his words. And I also have a picture of Srila Prabhupada in the living room where he's smiling and doing japa, and that inspires me very much. And I feel his love, his presence, his mercy. So that's what I wanted to share. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. So, what was that? My name is Balaram Das. So, my spiritual master is Holiness Giraj Swami. Srila Prabhupada told him one time that if he would just study Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even aside from him being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, come again 500 years ago, they just study the personality of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that they would become perfect. And my spiritual master, from that, he said that similarly, if one studies Srila Prabhupada, aside from, even if they don't actually understand who he is, but if they just study him, then similarly they would become perfect. So that was an interesting point he made. So in relation to that, there's so many books out there about Srila Prabhupada, and Yeah, and devotees should read them. And reading those books, at least for myself, that has been a great shelter, solace, right? Word a great inspiration within my life. Because so many Prabhupada disciples, they have so many wonderful remembrances of him, throughout those books. So it's very important that devotees read those books. And I was also thinking that my spiritual master, he was making the point that when Srila Prabhupada was physically present here, he was extremely inspired by Srila Prabhupada, he still is, but in his mind, his whole mission was to bring people to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada's shelter, which means, his association, his shelter, his guidance. And then when Srila Prabhupada left, he was thinking, okay, well, what will my service be now? And he realized that it's the same. This service is the same. He still brings people to Srila Prabhupada's shelter. So, similarly, for those who are followers of Srila Prabhupada, disciples, grand disciples, followers, that's also their business to bring people to Srila Prabhupada's shelter. And then when they do come to Srila Prabhupada's shelter, to take care of them in different ways, because that's what Prabhupada wants. So that's the business of any follower, really. So I appreciated my spiritual master also encouraging me in that way to do that, because he also encouraged me to take on what he has been doing throughout his life. So I'm going to try to do that for Prabhupada's pleasure. So as all the devotees were saying, it's a very special day to reflect and to meditate and to think about how we could become more sold out to Prabhupada and Prabhupada's mission. And also, as someone was saying, this idea of becoming Prabhupada conscious. Also, just to end with, my spiritual master, he has, at the end of one of his books, he has some concluding words in that book, and he says that his advice to everyone, and he said, which was more directed to his mind than anyone, was to always remember Prabhupada and never to forget him. So that was a nice reflection he had. It comes from that saying, always remember Krishna, never forget him. So, all right. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, my name is Shamali Dasi, and I appreciate this opportunity to express my deep gratitude to Srila Prabhupada. I was fortunate to be brought up in this movement, his movement that he so kindly brought to the West, and which my parents joined in their late teens. Growing up, I've always been very happy chanting and hearing pastimes of Krishna, but I feel as I've grown older, my appreciation has grown more and more deep, because sometimes when you're brought up with something, that's what you know, and you're happy, but when you grow up, you see how the world is, and you understand how special the gifts are that we've been given. And I thank Srila Prabhupada also for my spiritual master, for connecting me, and also for giving me a taste for sharing Krishna consciousness with others, because I feel like outreach and Harinam and Prasadam distribution, these things have helped me to really more deeply understand Srila Prabhupada's mood of giving. He had said in coming to the West that he did not come to take, but he came to give, and give Krishna consciousness. So I thank Srila Prabhupada, and I pray on behalf of myself and my dear husband that we can try to serve him nicely and continue to share Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I met Prabhupada in 1970 and he came to my home on Ekadasi day and we had a short time but I don't know who is Prabhupada, and we made a garland and we made some halwa and fruit salad and he came and he gave classes and I gave a glass of milk with the regular glass from the refrigerator, and he usually don't drink water or anything. He took water, milk and looking at me like this and he drank the milk. And I made harati also when he came to my home. First time I made harati and the Uri family, Indira made a garland. I made a garland, Indira put a garland on him. And we asked him, we were moving to a new home, could you tell me which is the best time to move in? But he came all the way and he walked 2 blocks in my neighborhood and he said a very good neighborhood. The springtime, you know, all the banks are flowered with ice plants and everything so beautiful. So he walked 2 blocks, we all walked with him. That is my first experience with Prabhupada. But during the years I didn't realize how great a personality he is. After the 4 yugas, after the 24 incarnations of Krishna, and after all the acharyas of the modern world, nobody could do as much as Prabhupada did. And he is a great personality, and he came at the end of the Kali Yuga and he wanted to deliver the whole world, and it is a very nice association. Even if you watch in the YouTube, you can realize all the information from the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, and any association with Prabhupada, his Vani, his associates with the temples is a very good opportunity for the humanity, at least another 10,000 years. And also one of the greatest contribution to the Prabhupada is the temples and ISKCONs all over the world. And wherever he wanted a temple, the temple manifested, and everybody experiencing the temple's bliss and association of devotees in the prasadam. And one of the most great contribution Prabhupada is Tretayugam in the Prahalad Maharaja showed Narasimhadeva only in the pillar of the material buildings, but Prabhupada all over the world, he established the temples, and everywhere everybody can realize Krishna and associate with Krishna directly and eat prasadamu, and that is the contribution of Prabhupada in the history of India, history of the Vedic culture, history of the whole world. He gave Krishna to everybody, and realization of the Krishna consciousness, and is a great contribution. I like that. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. My name is Roshikananda Das from Mayapur. Jai Srila Prabhupada. I met Prabhupada 1972. We came from Bangladesh. That time in Mayapur they give khichuri every Sunday, Saturday they give khichuri. So we'll go for khichuri because this time we have a lot of problem from food. So I saw many times the Prabhupada in Mayapur. So after Harikatha, after lecture, Prabhupada go the Lotus Temple, the 3rd floor. So we are kirtan and downstairs. So Prabhupada throw his garland, mala. So we are competition who get Prabhupada's mala. We are loudly kirtan. We say Prabhupada, Prabhupada, we have raise the hand, and sometime I get this mala. And I do some bad stuff. So what? That time I am 7 years old boy. I don't have perfect knowledge. So I hiding Pushadam Prabhupada hand to hand couple times. I put on the spot, I go again, I take again, couple times the laddu. And I was smiling, when the Prabhupada was smiling, one teeth is golden. And after I see this Prabhupada smiling, I go very close. And everyone said, go, 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 you are the boy, go, go first. And Lotus Temple, font, little park over there. The Gaur Punim, they make puri, beet puri and halwa. And Prabhupada standing over there smiling, we are going to take puri and halwa, and we don't know what Prabhupada will come to over there. So one day, in the morning, Prabhupada was walking, some devotees, I think Australian devotees, many devotees with Prabhupada. One Muslim guy, name is Fakir Mollik. His name was Fakir Mollik. The Fakir means beggar. The Prabhupada stopped over there and smiling said, Fakir, you one Fakir, I am also one Fakir. That time I was thinking, why Prabhupada say Fakir? Prabhupada has a nice building, lot of people, everyone taking picture, documented. Why Prabhupada say I am the Fakir? That time I don't have no knowledge, now I know. So why Prabhupada said that time I am the Fakir? So I think I am very happy and I get a lot of mercy from Prabhupada. Thank you very much. All devotees, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you, all of you, to express all this gratitude. And I'm not prepared, and I wasn't going to talk, but Rajendrananda Prabhu say a few words. So I have a lot to say, but I don't know how to express properly. So please pardon me if I make any mistakes. But someone mentioned about guru, and I read about a lot of gurus in India and everywhere. And first I was thinking as that, gurus are, I don't know, I didn't believe that, since we read about so many fake gurus in the books and with my experience and everything in India. So, but then I read about Prabhupada, which had a spotless character, and the way he behaved and the way he served people in the world, regardless of their gender, race, or any kind of background. He just accepted anybody, and that made me think that, oh my God, I mean, how much tolerance, how even coming from India, from that kind of culture, how did he tolerate all these? That must be, I mean, it's hard at the same time. He must be a kind person, and he gave prasad. He said anybody who comes to the temple, he built so many temples like you all said, but I'm thinking, how is it possible? It's mind-boggling. In 10 years, how can any human do all these things that he gave? The process, books, prasad, devotee associations, in anywhere you go. I was thinking, I'm from Gujarat, and I was thinking, I don't think there might be any temple. And then even tiny town, there is a temple in Gujarat, and I was thinking, wow, Prabhupada, this is unbelievable what you did, and how everything manifested in the world. And especially, I want to say big haribol to this temple, all the temples, but these temples, brahmacharis who work hard and they do so much. They are keeping the temple open any time, any day, any moment. People come and they offer prasad to anybody, and they work so hard. So I feel like it's our duty to serve them and do whatever we can, because they are serving Prabhupada, and indirectly we are getting benefits. So thank you so much. Thank you, Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hi, I'm Rachila, and I just want to say thank you to Prabhupada for bringing Krishna consciousness to the entire world and to me. And when I saw the movie of his life, I was so moved. It's the love he had, the unfathomable love that he had, in order to come to this country and all the hardships he endured. And And we are all blessed because of that. So I'm so happy that he did that. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. I was not prepared at all, and Vrindavan Prabhu says you should say something. The one thing is coming in my mind. Once one magician came to Vrindavan and he was showing his tricks to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada, whatever he's showing, Prabhupada was saying, wonderful, wonderful, very good. And then Prabhupada asked him, can you disappear the death? He says, no, I can't. Prabhupada said, I can. And the other time one more magician came and he's saying, Prabhupada, can you show some magic? Prabhupada said, I cannot do any more magic. I turned Malechas to Brahmana, so I'm done with all the magic. So this is very true. What Prabhupada did, I think over and over, nobody can do what he did it. And it's not now when vegan and vegetarian is very common. People, every single corner you turn, you see the yoga centers. People know about the Ganesha and Shiva and all Hinduism. But when Prabhupada came, there was nothing. And that time, teaching the Krishna consciousness philosophy was not possible thing, which he did it make it possible. Thank you, Prabhupada, coming to West and staying with your Guru's word and didn't change to the according to the others people philosophy, and giving the home to us, especially to me, this temple. I'm so grateful to you, life after life. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. My name is Gaur Keshav Das. So, George Harrison said about Srila Prabhupada that the thing that always stays is his saying, I am the servant of the servant of the servant. I like that. So this is George Harrison saying. A lot of people say, I am the divine incarnation, I am here and let me help you. You know what I mean. So, but Prabhupada was never like that. I liked Prabhupada's humbleness. I always liked his humility and his simplicity. So this is one of the qualities of Srila Prabhupada which melted my heart, and I'm sure of all of your hearts. His simplicity and the humble attitude. Even when we read Chaitanya Charitamrita, the author Krishnadas, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj, in the beginning, Adi Leela, he basically pays obeisances to all the Vaishnavas. Before starting, he takes the blessings of all the Vaishnava Shrotagana. Sabhi Shrotagana kare charana vandana. So he's taking the blessings, and then he's starting to speak about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada is carrying the same mood of our Guru Parampara, and which is I think the most important ingredient, because the reason obviously we are here is because of our egos, and the opposite of not being egoistic is being humble. So if we become humble, that means we become dear to Krishna. And so I am also trying to slowly reduce those, trying to learn a lot from Srila Prabhupada's books, and thank you Prabhupada for your instructions. So I have an app that is called Kathamrit app that has Prabhupada's lecture. So I just hit that button and it starts playing Srila Prabhupada lectures. So it helps me to stay connected with him during driving or in the morning time or evening. So, yeah, and one important thing which I liked Prabhupada when he was leaving the world was about, he said one of the final instructions was we all must cooperate. So I really like that instruction. And I was hearing one lecture where it was mentioned that cooperation is the most difficult thing in today's age. And if we cooperate with each other, then Krishna manifests. And when Krishna manifests, Krishna is so beautiful that everybody is attracted to Krishna. So we cooperate, Krishna manifests, and when Krishna manifests, everybody is attracted. And that's how we can grow this movement, we can grow the community. So I really like that point, and I hope with the power of all of your association and instructions of Srila Prabhupada and Guru Parampara, I can imbibe some of those. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. My name is Bhakta Glenn. I know I'm not qualified to say anything about Prabhupada, but Rajendra Nandana Prabhu, he asked me to. He let me have a chance to say something nice about Prabhupada. Growing up in the West, I was looking for answers in all the wrong places. And when I read Prabhupada's books, everything was clear. What not to do, what to do, who am I. And I'm just very grateful to be association of devotees. I think Prabhupada, he really changed my life.
Hare Krishna. My name is Varsana Devidasi. I was born and brought up in a South Indian Sri Vaishnava Brahmin family, and I had no clue, what this life was meant for, till I came in touch with Prabhupada's books. And right after that, my husband and I, we were fortunate to be engaged in college outreach for many years at Penn State. And we could sense that there was something beyond this, that Prabhupada brought to us Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. And even people like me could be part of it, and that was amazing. And then, so that was that phase of life. And then we had children, and I feel like I have a directional compass. I have a direction to my life. And many of my friends, they call me, they're like, how do you homeschool your children? It's even hard to be with them on weekends. And and here I am 7 days a week, I'm with them 24/7, and definitely there are challenges, but I have a vision of how I would like to lead this life, and I have a direction to go, and I'm grateful for that, because otherwise I was just a rudderless ship lost in the ocean. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. My name's Nate. I didn't know Prabhupada personally, but I could say to know that his devotees are good-hearted people, and I can see that he's made a very good contribution to the world, and has obviously affected everyone very positively. And I've definitely benefited from the work that he's done personally, the charities and the friendship that I've felt here at the temple and in the world, and I thank Prabhupada for his contribution to this life, and I'll say Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.
He was talking about that Mukunda, actually, the boy.
Haribol.
I wish I was the kind of person who could speak like Glenn, but my false ego is much too thick, and I'm too hard-hearted. But I came into associating with devotees of Krishna consciousness, not at all by my own desire, because I really only ever desired to find some kind of material solution to my life again and again and again and again. But, Srila Prabhupada, I came about spending time with devotees by the desire of devotees. And I came to taking up the process of cultivating spiritual life, not because I had any real desire for spiritual life, but because some devotees wanted me to have a desire for spiritual life. And I was recently, actually just yesterday, I was reading Satsvarup Das Goswami's one of his diaries or one of his journals, and he was talking about personal service to you, Srila Prabhupada. And he was talking about the danger of it becoming, of it changing the perspective, and so that somebody takes you cheaply, takes the association of a purified, of a pure soul cheaply, or of a Krishna conscious person cheaply. And he was referring to a past time where you said something along the lines that as soon as a disciple thinks that the spiritual master needs him, that's offensive. Particularly, he was saying that if one is serving you or serving one's spiritual master and feeling like, oh, my spiritual master wouldn't be getting very far, wouldn't be serving very well without me, or feeling like I'm like the one holding my spiritual master up, that's offensive. And that actually a disciple should see it that my spiritual master and Krishna, they're so kind that they're giving me service through this way. But the tendency is, not that Satsvarup Das Goswami was saying this, but this is my experience, the tendency is when one is heavily conditioned, that over time, and especially in intimate contact with those practicing Krishna consciousness, that one begins to see them as just mundane people, or just like oneself, struggling equally as much as oneself is. Just like a lower class or a third class devotee, Kanishta devotee, can appreciate God but can't appreciate anyone else, even those who are dear to God. So similarly, there's that risk that, I guess that's one benefit of me not having your physical associations, because I didn't get to make that offense, at least, of seeing you as just another common, mundane person. But still the risk is there that I will see your disciples and the disciples of your disciples that way, and that I will take cheaply their association, and forget that the only reason I ever came about even chanting Hare Krishna was not because I was looking for it or anything like it, but because some kind devotees wished that I would. So that's all. On this day, I'm just thanking you for the association of those practicing Krishna consciousness, and I pray that I won't take that cheaply, and that I won't even see like a step above Kanishta, that I just see God, I see Krishna, I see you, and I see nobody else. I pray that that won't happen. I pray that I will see the purity in also your disciples, the disciples of your disciples, and all devotees. And I'll make offenses. But thank you very much for this opportunity, Srila Prabhupada. I pray that I will take advantage of it in this lifetime. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Sorry, you'll have to
hold it up.
Bear with me. I'm just losing my voice a little bit. But I'll try to make this quick. So, when I was 15, years old, that is when I started my spiritual journey, I guess you could say, looking for God. And I started off going to churches, just trying to understand who God was and what my relationship with God was or is. And things naturally, I guess ideas, whatever, misunderstandings, yeah, they jumped from place to place throughout the years. And until I came to get one of Srila Prabhupada's books, my first book was the Bhagavad Gita. And although at the time the conceptions of God that I had was more along the impersonal aspect, I hadn't really picked it up right away. It took me a couple of more years, but nonetheless, I still had this inclination to understand God's qualities or who God is. And then I finally read one of Srila Prabhupada's books, although it wasn't the Bhagavad Gita. That was the first one I got, but it wasn't the Bhagavad Gita. That was the first one I read. But anyway, I read one of his books, and that was Sri Shapanishad. And that was the very first book of Srila Prabhupada's that I had read through and through on my own. And I was captivated by this personality, Krishna, basically telling me that he is the owner of everything and all of existence. And inevitably I was thinking, like, who is this person? Who is this personality? And so I began to read more into Krishna consciousness, and eventually I came across the different types of relationships that one can have with Krishna. I came across this understanding. And there are 5 main relationships that a jiva can have with Krishna. And for those who are unaware, that is the stage of neutrality, neutral love. There is servitorship, there is friendship, there is parental love, and there is a lover and beloved. And as I was hearing all these different types of relationships that you could have with God, I realized that was the most beautiful and glorious conception of God that I had ever come across. And one may call it sentimental, but it did instill in me really maybe some scrap of a desire to attain what Prabhupada has brought, or he brought this understanding of God to the West, and he allowed us to at least try and go for that goal. So I thank Srila Prabhupada sincerely for at least giving me the opportunity to try and attain that goal. So thank you, Srila Prabhupada.
Hari Bol. Srila Prabhupada ki. Sneaking in on the last moment. I'll try asking everybody. And we're going to be wrapping up.
Hello there. My name is Nitesh. Thank you. I'm a specialty doctor in oral and maxillofacial surgery in the UK. I was born in South India, but I'm a British citizen now. I've assisted hundreds of cancer surgeries and heart surgeries, and sometimes there's no answer with cancer, and you're still thinking, medicine can only take you so much, surgery can only do so much. Spirituality could help, and I've been to hundreds of religious places in the UK and in India as well. So I want to throw myself into service of human being and Lord Krishna or God as well. Yeah, I've made a few mistakes in my life, and I hope to be on the right track. Yeah, thank you.
Hare Krishna, my name is Lakshmi Narayan Das. Okay, thank you. Every day, every moment of my life, and as well as all of you devotees, I sincerely am so grateful and indebted to His Divine Grace for all that He's done, all that He's taught as the founder charter of ISKCON. Every day it never ceases to amaze me how much He is still teaching to this day, ever since He left India to come to the United States. Every time I'm perplexed, I read a book, listen to a tape, watch His videos, and the answers are right there. All we need to do is literally just follow His instructions. He is the greatest person that I have ever met and loved. Hare Krishna.
I'm sure everybody feels that Srila Prabhupada is very pleased with all of you who've taken the time to come here tonight, those who have spoken, those who have listened attentively. There's so much thanks to be given. The devotees who are in the kitchen, I don't know their names. I'm going to do a little devotional commercial right here. It's a wonderful feast. And it's amazing that it's an intimate gathering tonight. Not that surprising, it being Halloween, but the feast was not really paid for. I haven't given my donation yet, but please consider one letter that Srila Prabhupada wrote to George Harrison when he heard that, you sent a car full of fruits and flowers on the occasion of my spiritual master's disappearance festival. I know that he is very grateful and that he will bless you for having done some service, and that by his mercy that you can come to the spontaneous platform of Krishna consciousness. And I simply pray that this may take place for you, that this may happen. So Srila Prabhupada is very, very appreciative of the least little bit of service that we do. What to speak of those who do so much. But do the best you can. If you can donate to help the temple with the festival feast tonight, that would be nice. In Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, we hear how Grandfather Bhishma passed away, leaving this world. Glorious, glorious pastime. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, we hear how Haridas Thakur passed away, and the Lord personally took him in his arms and danced with him and chanted the holy names, buried or dug with his own hands in the help of his devotees the Samadhi pit to lay him in. And similarly, we have the glorification of Srila Prabhupada in different books. I think it's pretty well known, but Srila Prabhupada, before leaving, a couple of weeks before leaving, wanted all of his disciples to come to be with him in Vrindavan. He asked his secretary to put the word out, and he did. Called down to Bombay, and Bombay called to America, East and West Coast. And as, how would you say, fate would have it, a couple of devotees thought it was more important to engage in a Christmas marathon than follow that instruction of Srila Prabhupada's. Both of them did have some challenges in their life. Disobeying the order of the spiritual master is not how we get the mercy of Krishna or our spiritual master. But the point that I'm really making is that we are all in his family, and that we are all equally loved by him. And the degree of mercy that we receive from him is really up to us, what we're really willing to offer unto him, or to, as his instrument, offer to others the process of Krishna consciousness. So that evening, Dravida Prabhu's reference on the internet said 7:20, Gaur-Keshava said 7:25. Anyway, around this time, it's when Srila Prabhupada left this world. He was surrounded by maybe 100, 120 devotees. The room was full, men, women, children, everybody cramming in. And for hours, we were given some advance notice about 5 hours before Kaviraj told us he will leave within 5 hours. His lungs were filling up with liquid. And he called it. He nailed it in terms of the time. And so we all left Pashadam and ran to Srila Prabhupada's room and all began chanting. And we chanted for those 5 hours. And it was the perfection of Srila Prabhupada's instructions to us. Simply chant Hare Krishna. Chant from the heart, as they say in so many of the kirtan melas. I can tell you throughout the world, just as today, so many glorifications have taken place, kirtans, etc., all from the heart. That night especially, in terms of my personal experience, it was a unique and inconceivable kirtan. Because when I heard a recording of it later, it was the most sad kirtan, full of wailing and crying and devotees' hearts being smashed to pieces, and the surreal, the impossible taking place. Our spiritual master, who had defied death so many times, who had told us not that much earlier that Krishna had given him the choice to stay or to go. We, till the very end, couldn't conceive that he would leave us. Completely transcendental personality. But that's part of the process of Krishna consciousness. Yudhisthira Prabhu, I wish he was here tonight, but he says, sometimes with a smile, it's all over but the crying. Separation, service and separation is the highest gift that Lord Chaitanya came to exhibit and to share with us. It's what the gopis and all the Vrajvasis experience in the manifest Leela of the Lord. And that's what Lord Chaitanya is trying to bring us to, is that manifest Leela, and purify ourselves to go back to the eternal abode of the Lord. No matter how painful it is to see the pictures of Srila Prabhupada's emaciated body, or to hear of that final day when he lay on his bed, and the only thing he said all day, when the doctor asked him, would you like some water? In Hindi he replied, I have no desire. And he just simply wanted to hear the chanting of Hare Krishna from his disciples that he loved so much, and to leave this world in the company of his disciples who he was so pleased with, hearing them chant Hare Krishna. That's what he came to this world to give each and every one of us, the Maha Mantra and the devotional service of Krishna. And those of us who take advantage, we know how fortunate we are. If for 2 minutes, if you don't mind following me, that kirtan, I'll sing the tune we sang, and there was no leader and followers, we all just chanted. And maybe for 2 minutes we can chant thinking of Prabhupada and how much he sacrificed for each and every one of us. And then we can have Pushpanjali. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. And as all the devotees were chanting, Srila Prabhupada quietly, very, very quietly, moved his lips and left this world saying, Hare Krishna. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prabhujakacharya Ashuttar Sata Shishima A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Jagat Guru Patit Pavana Srila Prabhupada Ki. Srila Prabhupada Ki.